and welcome to Murphy's Garden, and you join me on a lovely sunny day. We're now into September, which I can't believe we're in September already, and we've had a lovely summer. We've had lots of family visiting and we've been out and about visiting lots of other gardens, and today it's the first day in a while that I've had a full day of just getting stuck into my own garden, and I've got lots of weeding and things to do. But before I get my gardening gear on and get stuck in, I thought it would be quite nice to do a early autumn garden tour. It's been a while since we've done one of those. I think last one was the early summer tour. So I just want to show you how the garden's looking at the moment, and also just go through some of the jobs that we've got coming up in the autumn. And I always find it quite exciting. I love the summer and I love seeing all the plants at their best. However, I do quite like the autumn and the winter months, because that's the time that we really push on with lots of the more kind of structural changes. And we do want to, this autumn we want to plant several trees in our new area, so I'm really excited about that. And we did last weekend, we did go and visit the Derwin nursery and the Dingle, which is just over on the border in Wales, and we did have a look at some of the trees that we're planning on getting, just to sort of get a provisional idea of what we want. I think we've got to get probably about 5 main trees, so that was nice. And then we've also been to Cholmondeley Castle and saw lots of these trees growing in their full splendour, seeing the size of them, and that's always quite good as well, just to see what they will get to be, what they'll grow into, because a lot of the trees we're going to buy are going to be quite small, because of budget. We can't afford to spend a lot of money on massive trees, and also I find that smaller trees do establish pretty quickly anyway, so that's an exciting job coming up. But also I'm going to be making big changes to my borders. I want to show you the top borders, what they're looking like now. In fact, having been in despair a few months ago, back in about sort of end of June, July, I was in despair. I thought they didn't look very good. They're actually looking beautiful because the dahlias have come out, and so it just needs a few bit of a jig here and there just to make big adjustments and hopefully get better heights, better, all year colour, but they are actually looking quite good, so my despair was unwarranted. So we'll start first of all in the Quadrant Garden, and this area is looking nice. It's performed all summer really. It's at the moment the stars are probably this Miscanthus Yakashima dwarf. It's got its little kind of fronds on there. It's looking nice. We've got Gypsophilia, which has been great all summer, but it is starting to go over, and perhaps if we just cut it back it might reflower. I have got a bit of work to do in this area. I'm going to get on and weed this area today. But yeah, we've got Salvia here, that's lovely, and I love it next to this orange calendula. And this is Achillea tarmica, another one that's been fabulous for flower arranging, and that's starting to go over too. So we've got some asters coming through. Asters and dahlias are really the things that hold the border together at this time of year, and also the Salvia amistad is looking good. On this side, more dahlias here, and this is Lobelia expicosa, the bright pink flower there. That's a nice one, and lots of chrysanthemums, and this is penstemon here as well. We have got another Yakashima dwarf Miscanthus here too, and the other plant that looks good, and this has come back for probably about its 3rd flush of flowers. This is the Persicaria. That makes a lovely spreading plant, gives that nice carpet of cover, also prevents weeds coming. This is an Acaciana, which seems to have just self-seeded. The ballerina roses, which we moved from the Parterre, they were previously in the Parterre. They're not looking as good as they did, but they have really performed all summer and have just they work better in this setting where they're just kind of sprawling throughout a herbaceous border rather than in the formal setting of the Parterre. This is Eupatorium, which is a really good plant for the insects. The bees absolutely love it, and I've got 2 different varieties, this one and one which I'll show you up in the top border. And this area, just more really of the same. We've got another Miscanthus, more dahlias. This is the Salvia viridis, which we grew from seed, some calendulas and sunflowers at the back, which look great. And the other thing that's just weaving itself throughout the border is the everlasting sweet pea. So this was growing up the trellis when we had the trellis along here, but now it's just kind of snaking its way through the border, and I kind of quite like it really. It looks lovely, and the nice thing about it is that you don't have to continually deadhead like you do with the other type of sweet pea, so it just flowers all summer. And one of my favourite plants has to be this Astrantia. I just love it. It's quite shaded here and it likes a bit of shade, quite good in a woodland setting. And although it's quite a subtle little plant, I just think it's so pretty. Very understated but beautiful. I've got a penstemon in here, and also I see we've got a gypsophilia which I put in earlier in the year, which is in the wrong place because it's absolutely lost by the miscantha, so that needs to be moved. And we'll head now into the Sunken Garden. So we're in the Sunken Garden now, and the Sunken Garden, the features of this are these trees. We've got Portuguese laurels, Prunus lusitanica, and they make really good structural trees. They're evergreen, and they also make really good hedges. I did do a video on best evergreen trees, and this is definitely one of the very best. At the moment it's got these red berries, and these red berries will turn into dark purple, kind of black coloured berry, and that looks really nice too. And it has a kind of frothy white flower in about June time. And what we'll do at this time of year, we will shape them, we'll give them that nice umbrella shape, and we'll get on and cut those. We need to do that quite soon. The area is surrounded by box hedging, and what the intention here is to make a little hole in that side of the box hedging, and it will go into a little seating area. We're going to put the white bench that's up in the top border, up in the top garden here, and then we'll plant around it. So I haven't deliberately planted this area out this summer because I thought we might get on and do that soon, but the Nicotiana that was there last year has self-seeded, and it's actually put on quite a spectacular show with little or no intervention from me, so that's quite nice. And then you'll also see that behind that is the other lime tree. So these are the lime trees that we pleached. Alistair did them all really well last year, and they're really filling out very nicely. And it's hard to believe that we're once tiny little pencil-like trees, tiny little trees, and how big they've got in the time that we've had them. It's incredible. And this archway leads us into the Woodland Garden, and I love the fact that when I put this archway in, I wanted the ivy to cover it, and it's taken a long time, years actually, for this to cover, but look, it's completely covered the whole archway now, and I really like the effect that it gives. And here in the Woodland Garden, we've got these Betula giacomonti silver birches, which just cast this lovely light dapple shade. It's nothing too dark and too oppressive, it's lovely. And it just casts enough shade that we can grow ferns and epimediums, lots of woodland planting, but it looks particularly nice in the spring when it has all the bulbs. And here we've got a bit of a hole going on underneath here. We had a choicea, it's the orange blossom, very common choicea that you see everywhere, and it got hit by the frost and it really got quite badly burnt. So we did cut it all back, and it's interesting to see that it has sprung back again and responded really well. However, having been to Cholmondeley Castle, and we saw the choicea DeWittiana, which is a lovely choicea, a nicer choicea really, I am quite tempted perhaps to dig this up and replace it with a DeWittiana Aztec pearl variety instead. And this is a multi-stemmed version of the Betula, and it does look lovely, and it's getting the really nice white stems now. It's starting to peel, and I think it looks really effective with this grass. It's a very light grass, and just having the lovely white stems emerging from the grass, I think that looks really lovely. And this plant is Brachyglottis, and it has these yellow flowers on it, but you grow it more for the foliage, and the foliage is lovely. It's very silvery foliage, so it's good for flower arrangements as well, and it just looks just quite nice, bright foliage. Behind I've put some Paracanthus all along the fence line, because the fence looks really ugly, and it really quite offends me, the look of this fence. So I want to cover the whole fence with the Paracanthus. So the Paracanthus is actually getting quite big, so we'll run some wire along here, and then the whole fence will be covered in Paracanthus with its lovely orange berries. This is a nice shrub. This is called Crococea. More ferns, and we've got the Catinus that we planted last year, just about this time last year, last autumn. So that's doing quite well, and it looks nice, the contrasting grass here. We've got the acanthus there with the flower spike, or bear's breeches as it's also called. And then on this side we've got the stachys, the lovely soft furry leaves, and also known as lamb's ears for obvious reasons. And on this side we've got the hydrangea limelight, which actually look as if they're struggling a little bit. We did put a little water on them last night. Even though it has rained, they're looking a bit dry. And this is the grass that we bought when we went to RHS Bridgewater, and this is Stipa tenacea, and it's lovely because it blows about in the breeze and it just looks really quite attractive there. Another lovely shrub, this is Pittosporum Irene Patterson, which again is a nice bright lovely foliage, and we've got a euonymus on this side too. Oh, and interesting to see that the phormium, this is the phormium we did the video on, how to cut back phormium. We're using the recommendations from John Lord, just to level it to the ground. Don't do it at this time of year, do that in spring, because the leaves were getting very brown and quite ugly looking. So we cut it right to the ground, not this year, but last year, and it's really responded well. And we've got this beautiful colour, and you grow it for the lovely coloured leaves, and when it starts to get old, those leaves go quite brown. It's difficult to cut out individual leaves, far better to just level it about every sort of four or 5 years, I think. And more hydrangeas, mop head hydrangeas on this side, which looks nice. We've got the buddleia, which is kind of gone over now, and then just some grasses, and this is some Stipa gigantea. It's just in pots. This is plants that we took out from the area that we're going to be working on, the old vegetable patch. So there's a lot of plants sitting about here that will be utilised. And these are what I call the butterfly borders for several reasons, because they attract lots and lots of insects. This is Anathra, also called whirling butterflies, and it's called Anathra landimeri, or it used to be called Gora, and it's here with the Verbena bonariensis, and both of these plants the butterflies and bees absolutely love, and it gives, growing them together like this, it gives this kind of very sort of impressionistic view. I think it looks quite nice. There are some grasses in there somewhere, but they're a bit lost, to be honest. And in the centre we've got some Amilanchia trees growing through that. I don't know if this will stay in the longer term, but for now it looks quite good. This area is going to undergo quite a lot of change eventually, but it's just getting to all these jobs is a bit of a challenge. We've got lots to do. I'm going to show you this. This is the little wreath I did. They had a produce show yesterday at Overton on Dee, which is in Wales, just over the border. And a friend of mine, she is the head of the WI, and said that I should submit something for the show. I've never done anything like that before, but it was quite fun. And one of the categories was flowers that attract pollinators. So I thought I'd do one of my little wreaths, and I didn't want to do a dried wreath because obviously dried flowers don't really attract pollinators. So this is actually a fresh flower wreath, but I've put it on this wall, and it's actually seems to be drying in the sun. It doesn't seem to be wilting really at all. It's drying, so we'll see what happens, but it's just on that wall while it looks nice. But we actually won first prize. I thought our entry was a little bit off piste because everybody else had done vase arrangements and I did a wreath. I thought, oh dear, maybe I've got this wrong, but actually we did win first prize, so I was quite thrilled with that. So this area in the Hornbeam Walk, we do want to do a few changes to this. So instead of having all these different plants, we're going to probably take all of this planting out here on both sides and replace it with a more sort of uniform palette of we're thinking of hydrangea Annabelle. I have bought some Annabelle plants. I've got one here, I've got one down there. I've just put them randomly in different spots just to see how they perform over the summer months, and they've actually done very, very well. So that's quite encouraging. I have taken cuttings from them because I need to produce one between each of the trees. So I've been busy doing that, and then we'll do that another job for the autumn if we get to all these jobs. And down the long walk, we've got the Nepeta back in bloom again. This side's a little bit behind because we cut the yew hedge and all the bits fell onto the onto the Nepeta this side, so it all had to be cut back, but it is coming back. And just to show you that any of you that are interested, when we cut the yew hedge, we had quite a lot of sort of big long lateral whips going across, which looked quite ugly, so we cut them off. We've been quite radical, but it's really good to see and really encouraging to see we're getting lots of forward facing growth. It's really regenerated. And we've got quite a lot of holes here. This is caused by the pigeons. The pigeons have been going in and making nests, and they're quite big and clumsy, and they really do damage the hedge. So we're hoping that that will infill. And then we've left these bits at the top, because what we intend to do is we'll get a sort of circle of wire, and then we'll grow the yew through and make it nice balls. And here, these are the pots, the Bunny Guinness Baseless Pots, if you want to see the video on how we did that. In fact, we've just ordered some more for the new cutting garden area, so Mike's in the process of making me some more, but we've been using them here. Some of you have asked, do they get hot? Well, it's been difficult to know because it's been such a not very nice summer here in the UK, but on a hot day like this, the sun's been on them all day. They're slightly warm. I wouldn't describe them as hot. They're not hot. My plants in them seem to thrive and are doing really well. We put this osmanthus in, and we bought this osmanthus as a very small shrub, and it's good to see how quickly it grows. If you buy them as a shrub, then you're more likely to get them multi-stemmed, and all you do is then strip out all the lower branches and you get this lovely multi-stemmed look. And then underneath we planted these erigeron from just seeds, a packet of seeds. It's incredibly cheap, and then we infilled it with that, and look at it now, it's just spilling over and it looks really, really lovely. This is the flower that it gets. It's a little white flower, and it smells lovely as well, so got the advantage of the nice smell too. And we're now here in the parterre, and the parterre is looking lovely again. We've had probably about 4 flushes of flowers. They flower their socks off, and then they go over, cut it all back, and then it comes again. This is the Desdemona, David Austin Rose Desdemona, and it's all full of buds, and we've also got quite a lot of flowers at the moment. It smells lovely too, really, really nice. So this has been a big success, moving the ballerina roses and relocating them, and then putting these roses in situ. And it will take a few years just for them to completely infill and cover all the soil. And in this area we've used strolch in the past to suppress the weeds, and that's been down. It's down for a year. It's been down a year and a half, and it's starting to sort of break down a little bit now. So I would like to replace that because it's been really successful. So the seating area, we have got some plans of things to do in this area, but for now it's been a great space, and we've really enjoyed it with family when they come up. We've got the barbecue here, and we've been able to sit out in the evening and enjoy a meal in this area. So as the yew hedge grows up, it will feel more contained, but it's really, really sheltered and a nice place to sit in the evening. So these borders, I was in despair with these borders, as some of you will remember, because they looked lovely in May and beginning of June, and then in July they looked really bad. They looked not very good at all, but they're looking good again now. So perhaps it is just a case that you just have to sort of recognise that you know, there is a little bit of succession. It's difficult to have succession all the year and have no kind of low point in the border, but I think it just needs a bit of revision. I love the colours in this section of this particular side. That side is not working for me at all, but I love the bright yellows of the Rebeccae, the Eupatorium, the lovely Eupatorium with the purple stems, and this very magenta colour phlox with the Echinacea at the back. Looks good. What I want to do is take out all the white phlox down this far end of the border, because it just looks really dull. I don't want whites in this border. I want colours that really pop and really stand out. It's a hot border. It gets full on sun all day. So I think the colours should reflect that and should be really hot colours, particularly at this time of year. So in the borders here, what does really well are the dahlias. I bought lots of Sarah Raven dahlias last year and put them in, and they were quite unspectacular last year, but they have really bulked up. And what's nice about living here in this soil, we've got very sandy soil, which is challenging for lots of reasons, but one thing it is good for is that I can leave the dahlias in, although it does get, we're in a zone 8 here, and it can get quite cold. We can go down to about -15, so it can get cold, but because the soil is free draining, it means that the tubers aren't sitting in damp, cold soil, and that's what makes them rot off. So I don't lift any of my dahlias. I'm really lucky. I can just leave them in and they do survive the cold because the soil is so free draining. So I might probably grow more dahlias, I think, because they just look amazing. And what's nice about them, the more you pick, the more you get. So if I do want to do, you know, more cut flowers, it's a really good plant to have. Alice just brought me a cup of tea. So just the vegetable patch. I'm not going to go through all the stuff growing in the vegetable patch, but what I will say is that when we went to the vegetable, the produce show yesterday, all our vegetables, nothing is kind of, I wouldn't describe it as perfect. We have got kind of wonky courgettes and less than perfect tomatoes and things like that, and potatoes, but and I didn't think any of them were of a show standard, so I didn't submit any of those into the individual categories. But there was a category for 3 or more vegetables, so I thought, oh, what I'll do is do a collection of all the things that we're growing and a little bit of everything. So I got a picnic basket and just did a display of some of the things that we're growing. Well, all of the things that we're growing. The sweet corn is ready and has been absolutely lovely, and we put the potatoes, some kale and some beans, the French beans, all the different colours, and it did actually look quite nice. So we submitted that, not really expecting anything, and much to our shock and amazement, we actually won a cup. I've never owned I've never had a trophy in my life before, but we've got this rather very impressive trophy and lots of certificates for our produce. We submitted some jams and things like that as well, and Livia did a quiche. So yeah, we actually did quite well. So that was really fun and really lovely to see all these wonderful vegetables and all the support from local villagers coming out to show us what they've been doing. And this area, final area, is the area that we're going to be working on in the autumn. So these are some plants that we've already put in, and they're doing really well, and it's encouraging to see how well they're doing. Hopefully everything else that we put in this area will do equally well. And just look at this Acer Griseum. This is a beautiful tree, and some of you may remember that we bought this just as a very small tree probably 2 years ago now, and look how lovely it is. It's beautiful. It's got the lovely peeling bark. I think it's one of my favourite trees, and I've always thought that we can't grow acers very well here because they always get leaf burn, but Acer Griseum seems to be a little bit tougher. It seems we don't seem to have the same problem with the leaf burn from the wind. With that seems to do very well. And this is Calicarpa. This is getting bigger, and it's got these purple berries on it. Up until now it has been quite underwhelming and not very spectacular, but maybe this year it will be good because it's got lots of berries. So finally, this is the area that's going to be undergoing hopefully lots of change coming up. So we've got the ground all ready. We've tilled it, we've killed off a lot of the weeds, the perennial weeds, and it's all good to go and level. So what I want to do now is we're going to go and get probably about 3 trailer loads of manure, and we'll cover this whole area in manure and then mulch it really thickly with a good layer of bark chippings, and then we'll be good to go and ready to plant in the coming months. So that's really exciting. So I hope you enjoyed that tour, and thank you very much for watching, and join us again in the next video. Bye for now.